I am trying something different. I'm going back to a little bit of a live stream here. I'm in my home office today. They're doing construction out there. About a month left, but I leave at the end of the week. But I'm bored and I want to answer your questions. I'm stuck in here because my dogs will go bananas with the construction guys. You might even get to hear them. Anyway, I want to answer your photography questions live. I didn't plan this, I didn't promote it. So this might be slow for people to come in, but I figured I would try it as a little give back to my members and subscribers and anyone that wants help in their photography. So ask away. I'm going to promote it really quickly here. But just ask your questions in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer them live. Keep it cordial, but you can really ask me anything. I'm kind of an open book in some ways. I see a couple of people joining in. Yeah, again, I didn't promote this. I don't expect to be a big turnout, but I'm testing out the live sort of impromptu features of YouTube and see how it goes. A little update on my life. Yeah, construction at my house. Stuck in my home office. So I've been sort of redoing my home office. Flooding here in Vietnam has subsided. I didn't get the blunt of it being up in a apartment high rise, but a lot of people did have some pretty horrible situations. So bad in Vietnam, things are getting a little bit better, but lucky to be up high and lucky that we didn't have any sort of major flooding in our building. Best editing software for black and white photos from Mark. Good question. Hi Sue. I don't do a lot of my black and white editing is not very complex, Mark. I just use Lightroom for all my editing. I'm trying to switch over because I find Adobe quite evil these days. So I'm trying to switch over to Capture One, but we'll see. But I wouldn't say I do I'm qualified to give you a deep, meticulous understanding of of black and white editing. I typically do all my editing normally like I would in color and then convert it to black and white and just do maneuver things around, manipulate things a little bit there. So yeah, I'm the wrong person to ask, Mark. I'm sorry. I hope you have a different question. Oh, Sue, you said hi and then you retracted your message. So I guess you said goodbye or you just never said hi. Next week, you guys, I will be in China for a commercial shoot. I'd love to talk about it, but it's an NDA shoot, meaning I can't talk about it. That'll be a week, and then I go to the U.S. I hope to film some content while I'm there, but I'm mainly there on a trip to see my family and enjoy Block Island, and then also go to San Francisco. But maybe I'll create some content while I'm there as well. So as people sort of come in here, I'm going to promote this a little bit on social media and see if anyone else wants to chime in and ask me questions. Well, let's see. See how these things go. See how the algorithm is for live streaming. Typically, you have to promote these things quite heavily. Oh, other things people have been asking me about, I'll just sort of answer. Oh, good. Justin's hopping. Hi, Justin. I'm fellow Justin and a Justin I know personally. We know online. Good to see you, Justin. Loving all the latest set of videos. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Justin. No question, but just saying that's something nice. So that's awfully kind of you to say. How's your music photography going, man? What kind of stories are you working on? I'd love to. If you have any questions related to that, ask me here. Mark's asking another question. I'm in Hanoi 6 weeks. Wow. In 6 weeks, not 6 weeks. What do you recommend for a half-day photo tour? Mark, I do offer, if you plan ahead of time and if I'm in town, I do offer a one-day tour. I don't do really a half day. I'm sure we could customize something for you, but you can go to askmott.com. We have a tour on there and you can check that out and see if it's what you're into, or if you just want to advise someone to go shoot. I have some great advice on my website, askmott.com. I have sort of a whole blog I put together. I know who does blogs anymore, about Hanoi, places to go, things to see, and what to eat that my wife put together with me. She chose all the food stuff. You can check that out at askmott.com or private message me. I'll send you a direct link to that. All right, questions are coming in. It's actually working. I didn't think these things would get any traction. All right. Richard's question. Okay, good. And Chris, I'll see your question as well, and I'll go back to it. Sorry, I just read his first. Hey, man, I appreciate this. At what point did you realize your style, or was it organic over time? Yeah, look, I think my style was formed from a lens that I chose to use and using fixed lenses. I think that became a big part of my photography is that I chose to use a fixed 35 millimeter for my stories, and I chose when I'm shooting long form documentary to be able to get a range of compositions with that lens by moving more with my feet. So I shot all my assignments the first year of my career with a 35 millimeter. I sometimes bought this little compact 100 if I really needed it, but I realized that I could move more. I realized that it made me mix up my composition. I realized it made me shoot through things more. So I'd say for my style of my composition, it was kind of chosen by me choosing a specific lens and learning how to use that. And then my subjects and what I choose to do is just evolving through time. And I'm always trying to change and get better. I shoot a little bit more with a 50 now. I shoot a lot of my commercial work with an 85, but that's more just because I'm trying to hide things a lot in my commercial work to make things work that aren't necessarily great pictures. And 85 tends to do that shot wide open. But great question. I think the style is constantly evolving. I think my style is less in my individual pictures and more in my series of images and how I sequence them, or at least that's a bigger part that most people don't talk about. Chris asked a great question. He said, what's an assignment you'd love to land? Maybe a topic you find juicy to try to capture, or a person you think it'd be so fun to shoot? Wow, great question. Chris, my personal project is exactly what I want to shoot, and that's my Kindred Guardians project. I'm inspired by people who dedicate their lives to helping animals. So, if I could shoot something like in that world, if I could shadow Jane Goodall for a day, or just take like an epic portrait of her, I admire her dedication to animals, her whole life to that, or maybe Richard Attenborough, but I think Jane Goodall would be even better. I would just love to spend like an hour. I'd love more time. I'd love to spend an hour with her and craft a portrait of her somewhere quite special, maybe with the northern white rhinos, or maybe somewhere in Africa. But yeah, if I could really that would be awesome. It's a great question. It's something I'd want to do. But really, all the stories I'm doing about animals, northern white rhino story is what I'm really passionate about. So I am lucky I've been able to do what I've wanted to do. Well, luck and a lot of hard work. Okay, good questions coming in here. So, wow, coming in faster. Hopefully, I can handle all these. Let's see. What prompted you to move to Vietnam? Well, I came here to. Long story, but the short version is I was living in San Francisco. I was studying photojournalism. I wanted to take some time off after my father passed away, so I went back to the Block Island where my father grew up. Kind of, I get to know some of his half brothers and cousins and things like that a little bit. I just wanted some closure there. Moved to the island that summer, saved up some money to come to Vietnam just to sort of explore with my camera and backpack a little bit. It was like my mid 20s doing this. It was a little bit later in life. Had a year left of school, came out here, fell in love with Vietnam. I went to Cambodia, stopped at a bunch of places, but in Hanoi, I actually said, okay, I'm gonna work on some projects here. I'm gonna shoot a little bit more here. And I settled in and met a great photography community. My community at school was very competitive, and it wasn't really what I liked. I liked the community to look out for each other, not sort of stab each other back. And they were a great community, very open, and went on these little trips. Fell in love with Vietnam through the lens, and I kind of never really turned back. Never graduated college because of that. I just found myself getting work here. That was my first story back there for the New York Times, and I didn't want to lose my spot with them and covering this region for them. So yeah, I never really looked back. And married a Vietnamese woman, and I've been here for almost 20 years now. I did a whole episode about it. If you want like more details, you can search on my YouTube page. But I did a deeper episode about why I moved here. Wow, questions are coming in hot. Hi, Zeka. Said hi, Justin. Hi, how are you? Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay, John asked me, hey, John, how are you? What's up? Have you shot the Q3? And if so, is the autofocus better than the Q2? Yeah, I wouldn't say I've shot it enough to know if the autofocus is better than the Q2. I've never been thoroughly impressed with Leica's autofocus in general, just because I also use Sony for commercial work, and it's just superior. I think it's getting better. I don't think it's amazing, but I don't need it to be amazing on the subjects that I shoot. I've shot gibbons, they move fast, but I've shot it with manual focus. So I use manual focus a lot. My commercial work, I use autofocus, but still, I don't need it to be super fast. So I'm not qualified to say, if an autofocus is really good, because I don't really shoot sports or action with it. I've used manual focus throughout my entire career quite a bit. I'm decent at it. And so I don't know. It might be an upgrade, but I would just be BSing you to say if it was. But I didn't have any problems with it when I used it, but I haven't used it in too much detail to know. But good question, John. Let's see. Gear question. I like gear questions. After the SL3 launch, do you think the SL2-S is still worth it for a hybrid shooter? I'm a 50-50 between photo and video. What would you say? Zeka, oh man, that's a great question. Like I said I was going to upgrade to the SL3. I tried to work with Leica on a couple arrangements for like a sort of barter thing, and it never really went through, and it made me rethink things. I was really set on getting that SL3. We couldn't come to an agreement, and so I stayed with my SL2-S. I just used it on assignment. I think it's awesome. However, I don't think it's awesome as a hybrid camera, if I'm being fully honest. Hopefully Leica doesn't watch these things. No, I like to be honest with you guys. So I would say, if as a hybrid camera, for a video camera, you need that camera to be awesome at autofocus, and it's just not. So I would say if you're going to work in the hybrid world, or you like the Leica world and you mainly shoot stills but sometimes need a video camera, a nice option is investing in some SL lenses and then also getting a Panasonic. Like I forget what Panasonic I have. You can private message me, but it's one of their best ones. I use my Panasonic as my YouTube camera. Like the SL2-S, I couldn't even use that as my YouTube camera because it couldn't get focused when I moved around. That's pathetic. So using my Panasonic, the focus is fine. I like the SL lenses. I like to be able to adapt and use M lenses. I like the SL2-S as a stills camera, 100%. I think the SL3 would be better it's a better video camera, sure, but it's not amazing. I don't think it's great for video work. I don't think they're there yet. I think they want to be there, and I think a lot of influencers and people that are invited to the things say that it's there, but they don't really use it like full on. Like if I was going to shoot a documentary right now, if I was doing one of my big commercial gigs, I wouldn't want to put that on a rig. I wouldn't trust it. I hate to say it, I just wouldn't yet. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't given it like a full deep test, but if you miss autofocus once and it doesn't really, it can mess up your entire shoot. And I just can't have that at a professional level. So no, I don't think it's a great hybrid camera. I wanted it to be, and I still want it to be. And I think at some point it will be, but it's not quite there yet. Great question. Let's see. Armando said, "Hey there, did you check out the new M10-D? Also, no hurricane issues there." No, we did have a crazy typhoon here. It was rough for a lot of people. For us, it wasn't that terrible. If it reached the 23rd floor where I am, that would be terrible for everyone. But I've been lucky. I've been privileged to not been fully affected by it. But just outside my window, I shared pictures on Instagram. It flooded pretty intensely, and it's horrible for a lot of people. A lot of people lost their homes, and some people lost their lives. It's been terrible, but we've had great weather recently, although it doesn't look like it today. But the sun has been out. Things have been drying up. I've been stuck in my house because of construction. That's why I'm doing this today, because I'm really stuck in here, and I was like, had energy this morning, wanted to talk. So to answer your question about the M11D, yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of people have been asking me that because I was one of the first ones in on the M10D, and I still have it and still use it quite a bit. As an M10D user, I don't see the reason for an upgrade. I mean, I print pictures with the M10D and it's fine. Quality is fine. The internal storage, I guess, is nice, but not worth it for me to sell that camera and upgrade to it. I think it's a nicer sensor, yeah, but I don't really need it. I don't think so. I've wanted to test it. I will get my hands on it at some point, maybe. And maybe that will sway me. I don't know. I like to keep an open mind about this kind of stuff, but I don't like to, I bought the M10D because I didn't want that camera I didn't want to have to upgrade it. And that was kind of the beauty of it. Is that it's so simple and so minimalistic. What's the upgrade? You just dial in the sensor, sure, but sensor was fine. And why isn't it still fine 5 years later? Nothing's changed. And so it's fine for me. I might be stupid and upgrade and spend money at some point, but for now, no. Great questions. Thank you guys. Keep them coming. I'm here to answer. You've got an M10R. That's a great camera too. I mean, I think that camera too, with the better sensor, is just fine. It's tough. We all want to play that game about upgrading the gear, and it is fun sometimes. And sometimes for work, it's nice to do and switch it up, but it's typically not worth it. When I bought my M10D, it was worth it because it was a different kind of camera. No other camera companies made something like that, and it just fit how I like to shoot. Great. I think we're about to get heavy drilling in my house. We'll see if I can handle this for a little bit longer. Any questions, you guys? Keep them coming. All right, just a good question here. I'm reading. Okay. Working at a snail's pace, but getting a photo assignment off the ground. Hardest part is getting subjects and gatekeepers trust and balancing when to shoot and when to listen. Any advice? Yeah, I mean, I like to be upfront with my subjects about how much time in my approach so they kind of know what to get into, but I also try to feel people out when I'm photographing them. This is going to be long instruction, of course, all morning, no drilling, exactly when I start the live stream. they drill. And so I just read people's body language. I talk to people. I like to say ahead of time, like, hey, if you need a break from me or if you just need a minute, like, don't hesitate. I get it. But I try to read people's body language. I take a break when I think they need a break from me. Go for a walk. Take a fake phone call, whatever I got to do. But yeah, I think having an honest conversation about what your intentions are with your photographs, what you expect on a day-to-day basis from them, how many hours. I like to. It's like dating. I don't like to start like, hey, I'm going to be there all day long while you're on. But I like start with an hour, then go back for another half day, then maybe a full day. Depends on your subject, depends on what they're doing. Sure, a lot of factors, but I like to take it slow, work my way in, and just be constantly communicating. What I'm after, why I need that, why do you need a shot of me at my house? Well, I want to show people, like for the rhino story, why do you need a picture of me back at my camp, like prepping my food? Well, I want to show people that you're living away from your family and that you live in this little hut and then this is where you spend more time with them than with your family. I think that's important to show the dedication to your work. So I've always found explaining, having honest conversations, open line of communication is very helpful. Yeah, Sam asked, do you recommend participating in photography competitions? If so, which ones do you recommend? Yeah, they're a mixed bag. I think if you can be part of a small community where you like that community and you can share and people can sort of look at each other's photographs and share there, it's nicer because you know the people intimately. I don't like to like judge people's photographs that I don't know that well, unless they ask me to do that. I mean, sure, I'm like judgy about like certain types of work, what I think are good and bad. But I mean, I've judged a ton of competitions, Canon competitions. I've been involved in all sorts of different things, and I think like I said, they're a mixed bag. But I think people can get way too caught up in it. Either side, they lose and they think they're not good enough, or they win and they think they're good and they're not that good. So I think if you do it with an open mind, you do it for fun and with no expectations. Sure, I like Leica has their LFI community. You could join their community. I don't think it has to been shot with a Leica, but double check me on that. If you have an interesting story, yeah, like a really deep story that you've put a lot of thought into, World Press is amazing. But all photography competitions are flawed in some ways. I mean, there was a guy who like took a similar image to mine, very similar series of images to mine, win a contest a couple years later with the same set of images that I took. And I could be bitter about that, which sounds like I am right now, but they're flawed in a lot of reasons. The judges maybe didn't know or they don't care, and so I don't know. I think they're fine, but don't put too much weight on them, I guess would be my advice. I never really did in my career. I never found that if you do, it's going to change your career. And if you don't win, it's going to change your career. I don't believe in that. The judges are also different. There's a lot of different biases and a lot of different things that people are looking for. So just some decent ones out there. But the ones you have to pay for are typically not great. They're just money-making machines. How do you go about prepping for assignments on dangerous areas subjects? What kind of things do you plan beforehand? Marcelo, yeah, great question. I don't do a ton of dangerous stuff these days. I'm a little more calm. I do a lot more commercial work. But when I'm doing anything dangerous, I just try to keep a minimalistic kit. I tape my camera. That's like one of my most controversial episodes of all time is that I tape up my Leica. I can show you right here. Like I tape the logo on my camera and I tape up my camera. Well, the M10-D doesn't, but I just put like pieces of tape on here and I just try to make it look as cheap as possible. And then people are like, that doesn't do anything, man. People will still listen. It doesn't cost me much. It didn't cost me time or money. And I just think, hey, maybe not, maybe some thieves know, but what does it cost me? I don't mind that it looks a little bit dirty. So I've always taped my logos. It's always been like a journalistic uh, trick that a lot of photographers do when I was in school. And I stayed with it. And listen, if it works once, it's worth it. So when thief looks at my camera, it looks kind of cheap, looks beat up. They go for someone else's. You can argue that. People have argued that. I believe it works. I'm also just very careful. I'm cautious if I go with someone else. If I go with a fixer, I try to watch each other's back. I try not to flaunt that I have a bunch of gear. Don't use expensive bags. That's why I like Wotancraft bags is because they don't look fancy. Like Billingham bags are nice and sexy. Leather bags, nice, sexy, look great. But man, that's a target. I used a Billingham bag in Bangkok and I fell asleep on a bus and someone took stuff out of it while I was sleeping. I caught them. I thought I caught them in the middle of it. I was like, what is happening here? They got off the bus. I went and chased them down. I never found them, but it was like, that's a long story. But yeah, that was the end of me using fancy bags that look fancy and look like they have fancy things inside. So pack minimalistically, don't look like you have expensive things, and tape up your camera. That's what I would do. And use common sense. Let's see. What were the factors that made you choose Sony over Canon? Mark asked me. Yeah, that's a good question. Like, I was using the biggest factor for me was video. For I have a separate business and a separate world where I make money on, and that's my Mott Visuals business. And that is, let me make sure my sound is coming in okay. You guys hear me okay? Just everyone, someone just chime in with a thumbs up if my audio is okay and the video is okay, because like I don't have a great internet connection with my big giant door blocking the sound. But anyway, I worked with Canon for a long time. Thank you. Thank you, tragic old hipster. I worked with Canon for a long time. They were my sponsor of the TV show I did. What I found is when I switched to Sony was we do a ton of video work, and all of the cinematographers that I worked with for my company, the directors, they preferred Sony for video work. It was just better low light, better a lot of things, better autofocus. I don't know where it's at now. I mean, I really don't, because I don't pay attention to that stuff a huge amount, but we switched over because of video, because of all of our hybrid shoots, and I hated the menu system, but I love the results with it. They're great cameras. The A7R4 is great for stills, and even I can use it in video backup. The A7 IV is great for that. The FX3. So we use it mainly because they're great hybrid cameras, and more money in our commercial work, more of our money is coming from video. That changed in the last 5 years quite a bit towards video. So I went with more video-centric cameras. I'm sure Canon's fine too. Like, it's not like I don't encourage anyone to just blindly switch. For a while, I had a weird hybrid situation where I was using Canon lenses on a Sony camera with an adapter. It was stupid, but that's because I just was so invested in all the Canon lenses, and it took a while to sell all of them. But yeah, I just find I'm sure Canon's fine as well, but Sony I found better for hybrid situations. A lot of people like to ask me if I'm going for that M11-D. Totally happy with my M10-D, so why upgrade? I'm gonna try it. Leica's been pretty slow trying to get me one, which is a bummer. Pretty lame, to be honest. To be pretty open in these things, but yeah, I would like to test it. I would think like I should have been a great person to test that camera out, because I've been using the M10-D from day one, early on. I was an early user, so I don't know. It's interesting, better sensor, but I have no problems with this sensor, and I like the size of the files. I've printed them, I've sold the prints of them, never any complaints. So I don't see a reason for me to upgrade anytime soon. Maybe in the future, but no issues here with my M10-D. So that's usually my my thought process. Like, do I have any issues? Am I missing anything? Is this going to make me a better photographer? And usually the answer is no, so no need to upgrade them. Another question. Let's see. Wow, you guys are okay. What by Renee? Renee asked, what would you say is the percentage you convert to black and white, personal and or assignment? Assignment work, never really. I mean, it's very rare any magazine or newspaper is going to allow me to shoot black and white. I mean, that varies from photographer to photographer and magazine to magazine, but really, like, selling anything black and white these days is so hard. Maybe that pendulum will switch. I don't know, but no assignments. I'm allowed to shoot anything in black and white unless we've talked about it ahead of time. I've never submitted some color, some black and white. It just doesn't work that way for the kind of work that I do, the assignment work I do for the New York Times. Personal work, if I really had a project that I was focused on black and white, sure, but that's just less these days. I might find interest and fall in love with it again. I've always found the monochrome cameras by Leica interesting. I might try something with one of those. I might try a project with one of those, but it would have to be with purpose and for a reason. So I'd say the percentage right now is kind of 0, like 5%, because I might just convert some of my still shots when I go out and shoot street that I think work better in black and white. But it's low these days. I have nothing against black and white. I'm just not into it at the moment. Renee asked thoughts on the red Komodo for your cinema work. No, I haven't tried that. Haven't needed it. I've been fine with the FX3 for us and what we do. And then sometimes I do commercial work. My own personal work, I do stills, but there's a commercial client I work for. Again, can't mention it's an NDA thing, but I've been shooting video for them. But even video, it's just easy to use our Sony cameras for that. So I use the Sony A1 because I needed 8K recently. No one really needs 8K, but they thought they needed 8K, so I shot in 8K. But yeah, so no need for me to do that anytime soon. I thought you would, Robbie said, I thought you'd be the guy asked to push the M11-D. Yeah, I mean, Robbie, interesting. I do have a relationship with Leica, but it's not like what people think. People think I've been to their big presentations, their big the release of the SL3, but I don't play that game. Like I don't go or do anything for a free trip. I'm at a point in my life where like I can pay for myself to go to Germany or anywhere. And then usually when I'm going somewhere, I'm losing money somewhere else because I could be making videos, I could catch an assignment. So unless I'm genuinely interested in the camera and then just my audience, I think knows me well. I'm not saying this like you think that, but I'm just telling you like if I don't like a camera or something I don't like about it, I say it. That's a whole different world. Those guys that review stuff, some of them are really good, but most of them, when I met them on these trips, like they're afraid to say anything bad. They want to be invited back on these trips. I don't really care. Like I like people to like me. I like Leica as a company, but if a camera comes out and I don't like it, I'm gonna say it. If there's a feature I don't like about it, I'm gonna say it. I'm not like mean for the sake of being mean, and I don't push for the sake of pushing. Like I use an M10-D. I don't think it's right for a lot of people. I just think it's right for me. I think if you shot the way that I shoot and you can spend a long time on your projects or you can dedicate a long time on a project, go for it. But if you can't, it's silly. So yeah, I think the M11D, I will try it and maybe that will change. I might have a different perspective after I use it because I am somewhat interested in, just the update and comparing it side by side. But my gut feeling tells me like probably no. But yeah, no one asked me to push things. You see in my channel, that's why I don't grow and go crazy. That's why you don't see me review Sony gear, Canon gear, and compare all that stuff. It's just not what I do. I review what I know, what I use, what I'm really, really, truly interested in using. I think that's probably why I have a small audience, but I'm also okay with that. This is something I do mainly for teaching, and it's something I do for fun because I like to connect with people like you guys. Um, do, 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 do. Any suggestions for learning more about composition and developing a personal style? Is your style and the stuff you share here? Does your personal style come through in commercial work too? Yeah, I think it does. I think if you were to, it's a great question. Let's see, Chris. Yeah, so I think I started getting commercial work because of my commercial style, because I was able to market and sell that editorial style that I was shooting, my documentary style. And even to this day, my commercial clients to shoot me, my commercial clients hire me to shoot in a very editorial style, which is a lot of natural light. It's a lot of natural scenes. So like when I'm shooting hotels and resorts, if you go to mottvisuals.com, open it up, you can see a lot of my situations. The subject is small in the shot. You see that in my editorial work as well. You see a lot of natural situations, a lot of natural light. And I sold that hard to intercontinental hotels when I started shooting their lifestyle stuff. I'm like, listen, I'm going to use natural light. I want these images to be believable. So many people are going down the path of like CGI type stuff, rendering. Look up. Why do that? You already have expensive renderings. Let me give you something different. And then when I shoot, I don't want to give away all my secrets, but when I shoot, let's say a scene for like a family playing on a beach with a resort in the background, playing with a kite, I don't just like, okay, you stand here, you hold that. I'm just like, if I have a good vibe with the people, if I've talked to them well and coached them up well, and they're decent models and actors, I like just play, just interact with each other, and let me get genuine moments rather than faking it. So I always believe in the real, or like you guys are having dinner, hang out, feed this person, you guys talk, just naturally talk. If it's too scripted, it looks too robotic, it looks too fake. And I think that helped me separate myself from my commercial work. And a lot of my private commercial clients today still want that sort of style. So I think that's making sort of a comeback, or at least like for people like me that come from that background, shooting very editorial, shooting documentary work, shooting as a photojournalist, has helped in the creating natural, real moments in my commercial work. Of course, I'm setting these things up and I'm putting people in a position to have natural moments, that I'm shooting in that way. So I'm shooting 360. Producers and set production people hate me because I'm just like, okay, I gotta move here, everything move around, let's go over here. They like to plan everything and I don't like to plan it so well. I like to just work very much in the moment and not think of the shot too much ahead of time. Think of it in the moment. Like, okay, this is the room we need to shoot in. Great, we've scouted. This is the best time for lighting. We've scouted that. But as far as the action, let's let it unfold. And so I think that's happened. I think it does come through in my commercial work. You can see that if you just go to that website I mentioned. Ooh. Richard asked a question. I know this is a photography talk. No, I'm open to talk about video too, but do you find yourself switching more to motion video for the coin? Yeah, like a long time ago, sure, for our commercial work, like I started to notice a lot of our clients wanted video work. And I was like, okay, I understand composition well. I have the equipment for it. So let me dive right in. I'm not saying I was good at it right away. I hired good editors. I hired good cinematographers. I worked with them. I learned from them. And yeah, so we definitely do it. For our commercial work, shooting video is one of the great things for making money. It's a great great way to make money. If I would say like 5 years ago, the switch really happened. It was like all of our money came from stills, And then for our hotel and resort shoots, maybe video is an add-on. Now it's kind of the other way around. Now the photo team is working around the video team. It's my company, so I have to work around my team, but photography is way less of a priority. Video is making way more money. But that's also changing now too, because so many teams out there, so many influencers out there, individuals, they're just giving away. They have a gimbal, they know how to shoot it, they know how to edit now, which is great. I think it's awesome that more people learning, it's more accessible to more people, but they're giving the work away for free or very cheap or for like trade or barter. And like it's not sustainable. So I think it's tough for the industry that people do that, but I can't control it. So why complain about it too much? But yes, definitely switched to video. I mean, I was also creatively interested in shooting video too. So for the money, yes. For personal work, I've shot a documentary. I don't expect to make any money off of that. I expect to lose tons of money off of that. But that'll be out soon. But yeah, that's my move into video. It's been going on for a long time, but now I'm doing more documentary work. But that's even more. That's the opposite of coin. I'm losing coin shooting that because it takes a lot more time, and I have to subcontract people out for sound design, things like that. I'm scrolling down here. Wow, deep question here. Okay, Renee asked, and then I'll get to Marcelo's question. Renee asked, to be successful in commercial work, do you think salesmanship or talent is more important? Oh, definitely salesmanship. I mean, honestly, it is, just because you're dealing with so much, like, I see so much crap work out there packaged nicely that they get a ton of work. I see it in wedding work. I see it in commercial photography. I'd like to say that talent shines, but really what I think the most important thing is being easy to work with and having a good reputation to deliver and professional. I think that's important. I think there's a level playing field. There's a certain level of certain type of commercial work where a lot of people are going to shoot the same, but if you're easier to deal with, I find that so important. I've walked in on big clients just saying, like, I walked in on, like, it was a remote shoot and I heard them they were talking on an iPad, and it was like a break and they didn't know I was there and the audio was on. And they were like, yeah, we like his attitude so much, like that. It was a huge client of mine. And they were just like, it was my first time shooting for them though, but they've become a huge client. But they were like, hey, he's just easy to work with. I like that. Yeah, he's got talent and the work is great, but what we really like is his attitude. And because I'm representing their company and the people that work for them, and I do have a good attitude on shoots, and I am easy to work with, and I do, I stand up for things that I think are important, but I'm never like angry. You don't see me lose my cool. And I think I'm fun to work with too. And I think that's important. Then as far as salesmanship, yeah, that's super important. You have to hustle. You have to play the game. Like, I don't do that a ton with my YouTube stuff. If I just like took all, like, let's say with YouTube, just in general, I know it's not photography, but it's kind of the same thing in a way. Like, if I sort of sold myself out a bit, I could have more subscribers. I know that if I took on every camera and reviewed every new thing that came out there, that would lead to more people doing me. So you have to figure out what you're okay with doing. Sorry, that drilling's gonna get really loud. But yeah, I think it's wildly important. The way that my editorial style for commercial photography was quite different, but I had to really package that and sell that. And that was fine in my 30s and my 40s. I don't know if I have the same amount of energy to do that. I'm lucky that I still get a decent amount of work based off of that, but I had to hustle and sell myself. And you'll see it. Look at work and it'll disgust you because you're like, why does this person get so much work? Because they package it nicely, and because sometimes they're easy to deal with, but a lot of times they've sold it well, they've networked themselves well, and they have nice branding. And I think that's important in a lot of fields, and I think it's important in photography. But great question. How do you think AI is going to affect your work? Marcelo, good question. I think if I'm a positive kind of half glasses half full kind of guy, so I think for my documentary work, like someone that comes from a background or trusted background, something like the New York Times, which I know people could argue you could trust, but I found them very ethically, have a high ethical standard. So I think for someone that comes from that background and follows those rules, I think people might trust me a little bit more than your average person for doing things like that. I think like that, new cameras that are coming out that actually you can show that your original file, I think that could be kind of interesting. So the positive side, I think there might be a demand. I think it might get so saturated with fake stuff, there might be a good demand for real stuff. At least that's what I'm hoping on. But I think for commercial work, I think it could drastically affect. It already has. It's made some things easier, and I think it also makes the cost or makes the real, like, people's expectations are just like, oh, our place is under construction, but you can just fix it with AI. It's always been that with like Photoshop, but now the expectations are a bit higher. So I think for commercial work, it'll affect it drastically. I think people that are more savvy in creating things after the fact and people that are less savvy doing that and more savvy creating it in the moment like me, it's probably going to hurt us, definitely. But that's why I like to stay diverse. That's why I do YouTube. That's why I do a bunch of things. I'm always trying to think 5, 10 years down the line, just because things change so quickly. And I've seen so many friends, just like there was a guy that I knew that did car photography in Los Angeles at a really high level, and then that just became all CGI, and he just like lost everything. It's like thousands and thousands of dollars in studio equipment and revenue, and I mean hundreds of thousands, and it was just done. I had to change careers, so that always stuck with me. And I was thinking like, oh, what else? How is this going to affect me? So I try to embrace the technology, learn from it, see what I can apply, and still keep who I am as a person in my business, but be amicable to switching and pivoting wherever I need to. Good question. How do you how do you now avoid blob people in layered photos in low light? Yeah. Uh, I think you're referring to what I say is like people get blobby when you're if you're shooting natural light, low light, the best thing you can do to get separation with your subject is shoot with a wide open lens. Like when I'm shooting natural light indoors and the light's not great. First of all, light. If I can get nice side light from indoors, this light is just sort of nasty now, but I'll put someone by the window and then try to get that nice separation between a dark background using that window light. Or if you have an artificial light and you're shooting commercial work, sure. If you're shooting editorial style and you're shooting indoors and you're only using natural light completely, the best way you can get separation and not have them look too blobby is just shooting wide open, having a lens that can create separation. So I shoot a ton of my lenses at 1.4. Now, what's going to happen when you shoot at 1.4, everything in your foreground, if you're shooting through something, can become quite blobby, if you will, but it helps with a little bit with that separation. So good glass is very helpful. Like I always have a 1.4 lens in my bag, and it bails me out of a lot of tricky situations. Let's see. Wow, more questions coming in. I love this. I should read them ahead in case someone like one of my friends comes on here and makes me read like a question when I say something stupid. Okay, Robbie, I heard something that made me think. AI is taking over digital work. The only thing that remains authentic will be film photography. Thoughts? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think people always will question digital a lot more than they used to, but they have since Photoshop came out, and I think it's who you're working for, and I think it's the individual. And I think if you can build that trust and reputation that people will trust you, then I think it's fine. I think the brands have to make a decision, and once they do, it's going to be hard to go back. So if I shoot for a company like Intercontinental and they decide to start using AI, I'm sure it will come out, and I'm sure that'll change people's thoughts on their images, and they'll start to question that when they look at their images. So brands are going to have to make decisions, and that'll trickle down to photographers. I don't see it as like, oh, you're only going to have to shoot film. I think there might be, I think you as an individual, it might be like, hey, this was shot by this guy who's known for not using AI or something like that. Or, these cameras that you can prove that you didn't use AI and have the original file, that could become important. I think in journalism, it'll remain important to obviously not use AI and for the reputation for the magazines and commercial work. I think it'll become more normal. I think there will be maybe a tipping point and then maybe a niche market for people that don't do that or businesses that don't do that. And I hope to capitalize on that niche market because I don't want to embrace it too much. Like we'll use AI to remove some stuff, but I don't want to be creating images on my computer. I want to be going out there and shooting them. And if I don't get to do that, then I'll probably just keep shooting for myself. Well, it's a good question. Something to think about. Oh, my pleasure, Robbie. If you have any more questions, you come to Vietnam, yeah, give me a shout. Chris asked me, have you seen any photography recently by someone that took your breath away? Oh, at first I thought you said commercial photography, but no. Took my breath away. If it's not popping, no. But I mean, I think it's also not fair to say that's with it. I've been on YouTube a lot because I'm learning. That's my world now is because I'm creating content for YouTube, and I don't think the work on YouTube is fantastic. There's not a lot. There's some, but it's not. So I personally, it's a good reminder actually, Chris, to go out there and look at other work that's out there. Usually when I want to be inspired, I might just look at I might go look at World Press and see what won there. But that's a mixed bag too. Some stuff I'm into, some stuff I'm not. But I haven't really been looking at other work recently. I dabble. Early on in my career, I looked at a lot of other photographers' work. Now I haven't so much. I would say I'm always impressed. Like every time I just go to Christopher Anderson's page, he's a fantastic photographer who does like what I like to do at a higher level, I think. But like he's taking shooting natural light and shooting in that very organic, natural light editorial style for commercial work. And he's just fantastic. He has a great eye, a great talent. And so I look at Christopher Anderson's page sometimes for inspiration on light and things like that. So yeah, his work constantly impresses me. So yeah, I guess there is him, but he's been around for a while. So I wouldn't say it's anyone new, but when I need a little boost, I look there. But yeah, I haven't been impressed with much I see on YouTube. I think there's not a lot of photographers on YouTube that are really talented. I don't think so. I think because they spend more, I think they could be, but they don't spend a lot of time doing that kind of work. They spend more time making their videos, and that's their own choice. Not judgy, kind of judgy, but let's see. Do you think that Instagram washed out look will ever go away? You mean like that fade look that people put on photos? Yeah, probably. I think that toning and filters come and go. Uh, I think what lasts is good moments and pictures that make you feel something. So yeah, we all dabble in it and all play around with that. I think Instagram's changed quite drastically. Like I just posted pictures today that are meaningful to me because I try to do that like once a month because normally I'm posting videos about helping people learn photography and my little rants on photography because that works better. I hate it, but it works. But like when I show pictures, no one looks at it. I hope that changes. I hope they go back to being a platform that celebrates photography, but I doubt it. It doesn't sell. So yeah. Let's see. Gesture? That's a cool name. Do you think today's photography lacks emotion and it's more focused on the technical side? Yeah, I mean, I got in trouble for saying that in an episode about soulless street photography. People are like, "Boo, boo, boo." Yeah, I think there's a lot of crap out there for sure. I think people, because we live in an instant world and that translates into an instant process, right? So I think people aren't like to get emotion in a picture, and even in street photography, it takes time and patience, and no one has that because they're filming themselves, because they're thinking about the episode, they're thinking about talking, they're not thinking about the shot. So I think it's just naturally going to happen. And when I say that, people got so mad at that episode, but it's one of my most viewed episodes, like soulless street photography. But it is. It's like if you look on YouTube, oh my God, there's so much of that. There's so much garbage out there. And then it's packaged nicely with a big following, cool editing. And so then people just start to believe that the photograph's good, but it's not. It does lack emotion. I think if you go back and look at some of the greats, how can they not be better? They put in time. That's all they were worried about, was taking pictures, slowing down and capturing moments and building a cohesive body of work for a book or for a project, spending not hours, but days, weeks, months, and sometimes even years. So yeah, man, I could rant on that forever. Yeah, okay, there's an exception. There's other photographers out there. There's some that are good, but there's less that are good. There's so much crap on YouTube where if you just spend 90% of your time on creating the content for the episode about the picture that you took, and not that time's not going into the picture, of course, man. And they're testing gear and they're doing 10 things at once. How can it not be worse? They could be good if they wanted to. They just don't want to. The reward isn't there for the photograph. And that, I'm not even blaming them so much. Like, the reward is for the episode. It's not for the picture. And what do they have to have? Like, I'm still lucky. I have the reward of having my work published in newspapers and magazines. And so that gives me like that extra motivation. But for them, for a lot of people out there, what's the reward? And then people are just rewarding, like, oh, great photograph because it's packaged nicely. And I look at this, I look at some of the big names in there in photography on YouTube with a big following, and their photographs are like really average to below average, and they lack emotion. So good question if you want to get a rant out of me, because you just did. Also asked about Poly B's walkie-talkies or gold. I think I've seen one or two. I have to look deeper into that. It could be good. I don't know. I have to check it out. It's not fair for me to say. I think I've seen one or two, and I remember liking it. So we'll see. Again, I just think that like a lot of the content you're going to get, like even me, if I'm going to go out and take pictures, the best version of me, if I go out, I'm not filming myself. I do it sometimes for YouTube, sure, but that's not going to be the best quality picture. If I'm shooting for a project or something I really like I don't want to go with another person, someone filming me, or even filming myself, or even focused on anything but photography. That's the battle. Like when I do my long-term projects, I'm starting to film content for it, but there's a limit. So some days I'm like, nothing today, just the subject, just my camera, just moments. And if I'm there for a week, 2 weeks, sure, I could spend a day filming content, but I need to compartmentalize it, separate it, and focus on shooting when I need to shoot. And that's when I get my best stuff. Yeah, you guys are all saying, a couple of people saying that about that guy's Pauly B stuff. So I'll definitely check him out. It sounds cool. I'm definitely up for that. Well, you guys have good questions. Yeah, I mean, Robbie, that's just what happens. Same with me, man. When I'm like, I do these episodes. My wife and I go around and try to get one picture, and I made it one picture because if I tried to get a series of pictures, I would fail miserably because I'm out with my wife. We're distracted. I'm trying to film. I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to think about the narrative for the episode and how it's going to go. So it's more to show people Vietnam and less to get a really good quality picture, or more to show you what I can get in the moment or what I'm thinking in the moment when something comes up. Let's see. Good questions, you guys. Okay, I'll check that one out. The Brian Wortham episode. Can we trust our frailty as creative, failing humans to encounter the AI onslaught? I think I think it'll reach a point, fatigue and false. Yeah, I think so too, man. AI seems like exciting to a lot, but it seems kind of depressing to me as someone who's focused on real, focused as a journalist. And I think it just, no one believes anything anymore. I don't believe a lot of stuff I see in these contests. I mean, I do the math in my head. I'm like, but I mean, man, this kind of stuff was like, look at Steve McCurry. I don't want to go off on a rant with him, but like all his stuff was set up. And then not only set up, not all of it, but a lot of it was set up. And then not in addition to it being set up, then he was even like photoshopping things out. It's been going on for a long time. It's not even a slap on the wrist from Nat Geo for that. And so, or even for him for doing that, it was like barely a blip in the, like Peter Pixel did something about it, and that's maybe a couple other people. That's it, and then people just forgot and move on. But that's like terrible. It's so unethical, all this stuff that he did. I don't want to go too deep into it because that'll go down a whole other path. But yeah, I didn't like it as a journalist. I thought it's super shady, and I think the work is good commercially. I don't think it's good editorially because it's fake. So that's my thoughts on that. There you go. All right, Robbie, you really want to get me going here. All right, let me go back to Renee here. When you do personal work, what do you gravitate towards? What inspires you? Animals. You go on my website. I'm really fascinated. I'm fascinated with people's stories. Like I shoot as a wildlife photojournalist, so my stories aren't wildlife. There's stories about people who interact with wildlife. So I'm inspired by people who dedicate their lives to helping animals in some sort of capacity. So that's what you'll see on my website, justinmott.com. You'll see my Kindred Guardians project is related to that. It's an ongoing project. When I need to take a break from everything else, shooting for someone else's story, someone else's money, someone else's timeline, I go and shoot my project. I put as much time as I can into it. I shoot it my way. I experiment, and that's my me time. And that's what but I like story. I like people, man. I really like people. I like stories about people. I like getting to know people, and I like choosing the people I get to know because there's a lot of shitty people out there too. But I get to know good people and see good people and be a part of their lives, and be inspired by them and document them. It's fantastic. So I just do that in my own time and on my own dime. And so, just to answer that question, Renee, I would say long form documentary. That's what I gravitate towards in my personal work. Robbie asks, open up a can of worms. Thoughts on Leica hate? I find it amusing. I find it amusing. When I first started the channel, it almost was like enough to like make me not do this. I wrote an article about the M10-D, and it was published on, you should go back and read the comments. It was published on Petapixel, and oh my goodness, it was just like, I never really wrote for like mainstream. I always wrote on my blog, and this was like I didn't have my channel fully yet. I don't think I had it at all yet on YouTube. And the comments were just like, this guy, people are so angry. I was like, my God, I just said I like a camera for me. I'm not even a pitchman. I wasn't trying to sell it. I don't think it's great for everybody. I thought just, hey, cool. Like, like I like it. Here's why. You don't like it? Cool. And I'm very good at pointing out the flaws in a camera. And I think I'm also very honest about pointing out how it might not work for some people. But yeah, I think the Leica hate is funny. I found it annoying in the beginning. Now I just find it funny that people get so worked up about cameras, but that's up to them, I guess. That's their own prerogative. I used to engage, and now I don't engage so much anymore. Usually those comments, if they're if they're not that aggressive, I won't delete them. If they're aggressive and like mean, then I just delete them. I don't. Every time you engage, man, I never have engaged and been like, oh, I'm glad I did that. Like, you're not changing anybody's view on it. I think it's weird, but it's fine, I guess. Yeah, I could talk more about that. Joel asked, if you have to review your own portfolio, how would you approach it? I think it's good to get a second opinion on anything because I think we get emotionally attached to our images. So I like to, when I'm like my Kindred Guardians project, I have an editor that used to be an editor at the New York Times, then at Nat Geo, and I pay him to edit my work. and it gives me another set of eyes on things that I really trust. And I think the trust part is important. The second set of eyes is important because you do get emotionally attached to certain images and you see it because you were there, but I want someone to see it as an outsider. And I think it's really important to be a good self-editor, which a lot of people aren't. I have friends that are just terrible self-editors. I think I'm pretty decent, but I also need another set of eyes for the reasons I mentioned. So I just go about it slowly. I move things around. Like when I'm sequencing my work, I try to look at it like every few months. I look at my portfolio, and that's going to be dictated on like what I'm trying to do with my portfolio. My portfolio switched quite a bit when I pivoted towards wildlife photojournalism and less assignment work because I was doing more commercial work. So I thought, okay, I want people to learn about these stories and these projects, and you know, it's definitely pigeonholed me a bit when my website is focused more on animal stuff, but that's okay because I'm making my money from my commercial work and other revenue streams like you know, YouTube and education. So that was fine for me. But when I really just wanted to do assignment work, I needed that portfolio to show all the countries that I could work in and all the assignment work that I've done. And so it's a mix. So as I change, as I grow, as I pivot towards what I'm trying to do and how I'm trying to sell myself as a photographer, that website, that changes. For an individual story project, I'm editing constantly. Like I'll go through my edit like 20 times just for a long-term project. For a New York Times assignment, I've got a day to do it. So I'm sending in, I might take 2,000 pictures, might send 50, they might choose 3. That's kind of the process. How many people here have a Leica? Yeah, I'd like to know too. How many people here have a Leica? Say that. Just say yes if you do it. I'm interested to know my audience, and I'm not like I don't have anything against non-Leica people. I encourage everyone to come to my channel. So this is, I like Fuji people, Sony people, Nikon people, Canon people, everyone. I mean, Panasonic people, whoever. You keep stirring the pot, Robbie. I'm fine with that. If you weren't sponsored, paid for by Leica, which other brands is? I'm not paid or sponsored by Leica. I think that's a misconception. I bought this camera at full price, M10-D. I bought the Deluxe 8 at, you know what, to be honest, man, I pay a higher price because I buy it in Singapore and the prices are high here compared to if I bought it in B&H. So I've wanted a deal. They don't give me a deal. So I don't get paid. I don't get sponsored. I've done workshops with them. I charge less than I make on my own for stuff, a lot less, significantly less. So that is a common misconception. I am not the only time Leica has given me money was to buy my image for a global ad campaign many years ago. But there's no exchange in that way with me, with them. I don't do that, you know. And if I did, I will tell you. I have nothing to hide there. So I pay more for stuff. I get better deals I buy lenses on the gray market here in Vietnam and I get better deals. I buy what, you know, the only time I buy from them was when I really want a warranty or it's a camera that's hard to get. And they can help me out in that way. So no, I have no sort of tie in that way, and nor do I really want that so much. Like I'm happy to review stuff early on and give you my honest opinion. And I'm sure if I'm too honest, they probably, I don't know, maybe they won't give me stuff anymore. But that's also okay. B&H is overrated. Is that a question? People are obsessed with them. I'm not necessarily obsessed, but I just buy stuff in B&H because like I live in Vietnam and I'm going back to the States. They just have a bunch of different stuff I can choose from. So I might need to do a bulk order for stuff that I can't get here, like memory cards, card readers, or just a whole bunch of random stuff that we need for our commercial photography business. Sometimes just random cables and things that have higher quality that they just have an abundance of things to choose from. I can just get it all done in one order and send it, and I trust it. So that's why I use them. Okay, some questions I missed here. Let's see. Trying to answer some questions from other people that maybe wonder how many. Okay, do you think it's good to hold on your photographs before doing something with it, like printing or exhibitions? I don't know what you mean. Hold on. You mean like not rush them out? If you can elaborate there, Jeshurun, Run, on that, I can help you answer, but I don't know. Marcelo asks, when you think of a new personal project, you look for a possible sponsor before you start and try to sell them your idea. I used to, Marcelo, I used to do that. And I just found waiting for people is a dangerous game. And it's the enemy of moving forward because I always wanted sponsors for things. And I felt like I built up, you know, enough clout to do that. But just to get shit rolling, to get the ball rolling, people forget it. Every time I've waited for other people to make decisions, nothing happens. So I just said, screw it. My personal project, I said, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to wait. And then also, it's not tainted. You know, my personal work is so personal. The point of it is to be personal. I don't want it tainted by someone else's direction. And inevitably, it's going to be. So if I can get a sponsor somewhere like halfway through or towards the end, sure. But that's not the goal. And I don't think about it a ton. I used to think that way because I am like a business person in that sense. But it's the enemy of production. And I just never get anywhere when I wait for people. And I'm so good at just going out and doing things on my own. And it's amazing with less people how much faster things get done, as we can all attest to. So yeah, and if you need it for funding, I totally understand that. I just didn't. You know, I can fund it with my commercial work. I mean, it still crossed my mind, definitely. But every time I pitch it and talk about it, it's like always, well, just no one ever wants to get anything done, and I'm not aggressive, and I don't want to be like a heavy salesman on myself for that stuff. Eddie asked, if you weren't a photographer, what career do you think you'd be in? Entertainment. I think I would. I've always had a. I've wanted to be in stand-up comedy. I thought that would always be fun to try that. I think might not tell here. I'm not doing any jokes here, but I think it'd be fun. Or sketch comedy. I think would be even more interesting to me. I like to write in sketch comedy or act in sketch comedy. I think that would be a lot of fun. So yeah, I think it'd be entertainment or interior design. I like designing things. I like designing my apartment. You know, now it's a mess, but like all the construction going on there, I had a big say in like how things are laid out and furniture design and that kind of stuff. I like all that kind of stuff. So that's what I think I'd be in. I've never worked in an office my entire life. Kudos to people that have and can do it. I just can't. I have too short of an attention span, and I like to move around a lot. And being trapped even in my home office for this last few weeks has been terrible. Thanks for saying street photography is a shite way to make money. Woke me up a bit. Yeah, it is. It just is. I mean, some people do it, but like very rare. It's like and it's like acting, you know, like a lot of people can do it, but only some people succeed. But even the payoff in acting when you do succeed is like enormous, right? If you become a megastar. But you know, in photography, even like the best of the best street photographers aren't pulling in a ton of money. They just aren't selling prints. So hard, man. Selling books, so hard. Most of these people lose money. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about all the time and money that goes into the work that they do, their equipment, all that stuff. They want to showcase this world of like, this is my life. Look how cool it is. Look how much, but they don't really. Maybe one or two, but typically they're making it from YouTube or other things, and they're not making as much money as you think they are. So yeah, street photography is probably one of the worst ways to make money in all the genres of photography. Best being commercial, like you know, and that's going to change too with AI. But like wedding photography, there's a pipeline of work there that I don't think is going anywhere. I think that's probably the safest industry. It's just not my thing. Did it for a while. I just don't like it anymore. Okay. Oh, just banged my elbow. A lot of questions. I'm very happy with this. I just bought a Nikon ZF and want to adapt manual lenses. Can you recommend a reasonably priced M lens is likely to be a keeper? Something between 28. Yeah, man, that's a dangerous game to play because I like good stuff. And so I like for my main lens that I use, the way I approach lenses is I use a 35 more than anything. So I'm gonna buy the best of the best 35. Whatever kit I have, I've got like the best 30, not like the not deluxe, but I've got a 50 1.4 and 35 1.4 Summilux M lens, and I love it. But I think Voigtlander is going to be decent too. I think you're right with that. Typically I buy the best 35, and then I've changed recently and also bought the best 50. So I don't think everyone needs to do that, but I think it's Robbie, an American doing stand-up comedy in Vietnam is so much. Let me finish that question first. So yes, I think I can justify the price of a $5,000 M series 35 aspherical Summilux lens, but not everyone can. So yeah, I like it. And then maybe you could buy, you know, Voigtlander 90 or 75, whatever lens you use, maybe a little bit less. I think that's a good way to do things. I think, or even the R series. Man, the R series has some good deals on there. I have an R series macro lens that I kind of dig. So a stand-up American doing stand-up in Vietnam could be interesting, but it's like I'm also afraid. Do I talk about making fun of America? Do I talk about some of my little things about Vietnam? And I love most things about Vietnam, but of course, like anywhere, you're gonna have your own little perception on things and things that bug you. But that could easily go wrong, and I could get in trouble for doing that. I don't know. I think it'd be fun to do that kind of stuff. I've written things down. Let's see if I'm brave enough one day to actually do it. Yeah, good question, Joel. How do you use Leica M if your vision is not 2020? You know, they have the VisiFlex. You could do that. You could try that out and just buy that. It's really expensive, man, but it's like $800, but a lot of people like it. A lot of people use it and they're happy with it. I've never used it, so I can't speak from experience, but my vision's pretty good right now. But as I do more editing and I'm looking at these big screens, it's going a lot faster. I'm 46. I've never wore glasses. Last time I checked, I was doing all right, but I think the next couple of years I might need glasses. We'll see. Renee asks, ever consider doing fine art photography? Is the path much different than reportage? Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I'm talented enough to do it. I don't know. I'd like to explore it. I don't know what I'd explore. It's something that I've thought about. I'd like to just be like, yeah, not beholden to certain rules that I've always been beholden to, but I also like those rules, those ethical standards in journalism. So I don't know, Renee. It's a good question. It's something I would consider. Something I started to dabble in COVID, and then I was released back in the wild, and I went back to focus on what I like to do, which is photographing people stories, people and animal stories. What are your favorite photo books? I think you had The Americans and maybe Inferno. Are there any other recommendations? Perhaps your favorite photographers. Oh my goodness! If I could, I should have had like a portable camera, but behind me back there, I've got a whole collection of books. I have a lot of Richard Avedon books. I just like his books. I think a book about his life is really interesting called Something Personal. That's not a photo book, but it's a book written by his former manager. It's his biography. Love that book. Something Personal. I forget the name of the author, but it's about Richard Avedon. Easy to find. Dan Winter's book, The Road to Scene. I love that book because it's a nice mix of his journey in photography with pictures. So it's a photo book in a way, but it's a great book to read also. I've got a lot of the classics in there. A bunch of Magnum books, different things. But yeah, I like Noctuay's books, but they're also depressing. I had some friends over the other day. We opened up the Inferno book and people were flipping through it. I'm like, prepared to be depressed. And they were wildly depressed afterwards. So I like, sometimes I need to laugh. So I'll pull up a bit, maybe Elliot Irwin. There are a lot of photography workshops out there. How would you pick a photographer to spend your time and money with? Well, Chris, easy. I offer the best workshop in the world that I do with my wife here in Vietnam. We have a couple slots left for my Northern Vietnam photography workshop in December. No, that's my sales pitch. I think I would say if you're going to look at a photographer it's good to know. It's a tough one to say here, right? But okay, I'd say there's a lot of things. Look at the workshops. Look at if they're doing them like every month. I would say that might be. I could see people getting burnt out, so you might not get the best experience. I would see if they're hands-on or if they just stay in a room. A lot of like famous photographers, they'll just stay in a hotel room and they just look at your work at the end of the day. And I don't know, I'd like a more hands-on approach, and I like to teach that way. So I'm out in the field with people, and this is going to sound very self-serving. I don't want it to sound that way, but I like a hands-on approach. When I taught a workshop with Leica, they were surprised that I was like, oh, I'm so hands-on. I'm going out with people because I like to watch how you shoot. I'm not like over your shoulder taking pictures for you, but I want to, if I can see what you're shooting and I can see what the light is and I'm out there with you, I can teach you better. And I can see things in the moment. I'm like, oh, you could have got this if you did that, rather than you just telling me and I'm back in a room somewhere looking at pictures. So I think that's important. I think go to a place that you find interesting. I think if the workshop is small is important too. You're not going to get the same experience of like 10, 15, 20 people in a workshop. It's just a lot of more things to go wrong, less of an intimate learning experience. We keep our workshops to 5 people. And I found that's a nice sweet spot. I've done street photography workshops or photo walks with 10, but that's just for the day. But my like long workshops, and also figure out what you're going to learn during that time. Like during a workshop that I do with 5 people, I can teach you all separately. We'll all be photographing similar things, but I can teach you in a different way. So the community's part of it, the photographer's work and their background, that's important, but not everything. Some of the best photographers are the worst teachers. Some of the worst photographers can also be pretty good teachers technically. So figure out what you want to learn, figure out what they're good at, and look at the itinerary and see if it syncs up with what you want to do. Because there's a lot of crap out there. Make sure they're doing it for the right reasons. Like I do 2 a year because I know I could probably do 4 a year, but I do 2 a year because I know that's like I can give everything for that. And that's what I want to do. I need to be at the highest level for everything. And the same with my photo shoots. Like I limit those nowadays because I just want to be able to give everything during that time. I used to go back to back to back to back, and it's taxing and it's exhausting, and it's just not going to be the best product. So it's important. Check that out. Do your research. Been distracted by that table in the background. Love the legs. Love my legs or love the table? No, don't. Yeah, that's not. It's a bench that from this place called District 8. Really cool industrial design furniture place. Kind of overpriced. I found a cheaper place. No, not overpriced, but I found a cheaper place that does industrial furniture. I like. They made that lamp back there. And see my dogs just totally sleeping there. Explorer asked, when you go back to the States, is it New York City or where are you from? I sound like I'm from the East Coast, right? Because I am from the East Coast. I'm from Rhode Island. That's why I sound funny. I'll go back to Rhode Island. I go to Block Island. That's what this tattoo is on my arm. That's Block Island right there. My family's from there. I go back there for a couple of weeks. I'll go to San Francisco. I live there for a bit. A bunch of my friends are there. My older brother's there. So I'll go to San Francisco. I'll go to Rhode Island. No New York on this trip, but I'd still like to make a trip to New York. Sometimes I have some friends there. Richard asks, how's your street photography helped your editorial and commercial work? Being intuitive, empathy for the subject, speed of composition, capture creative use of light, justify my years on streets. Yeah, like I would say I learned street photography through editorial assignment photography because most of my assignments were kind of street photography. When I was in class and I was taking photo 2, photo 3, we had to do these projects in San Francisco, just go to photograph a neighborhood. And that really taught me street photography because some people came back and like, what do you want me to do? And they needed to be directed. I was like, great, you can give me that freedom to just document what I want and find a theme there. And that made me think creatively. What do I want to capture in this neighborhood? What is this neighborhood about? And so I think it really helped me. It did help me think on my feet. It helped me find something on nothing. The street photography started playing a huge role in my travel photography too, because it's kind of the same thing, right? Do a story about this area. Yes, I've got to photograph this museum, this cafe, this restaurant, this whatever, but I also just need a general sense of place, and I'm going to get that hitting the street. So it made me be able to find, I think that's it. Maybe be able to find, and that applies to all my commercial work. I have to find things. I don't like to go in thinking I know what the shot is ahead of time. It's like for commercial work, we have to shoot at this pharmacy, we have to shoot at this lobby, this commercial client wants me to shoot the story right here. Find the picture. And that always helped me find the picture. Street photography helped me find the picture and find it quickly when I need to. And the documentary taught me more patience and being able to say, okay, this is it, but what else could I get if I come back another day? Good. I'm glad you like those recommendations. Not Toy Dan Winters. I'll try to give more. I think I did an episode about photo books that I like. Oh, it's a great book. It's a fantastic book. Probably hard to find, but it's Trent Park, Minutes to Midnight. I love that book. It's a really good photo book. Check that book out. He's a Magnum photographer. I'm off and running. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Mark. Lee, thank you for being a member. First of all, I see one of my members here on my channel. It's a great way to support my channel, you guys. I do this sometimes I'm going to do this sometimes just for members, sometimes for people that just subscribe and open, but members do get access to our private community on Facebook where I'll give you a monthly assignment. You can share images, I'll comment. You're part of our little community. So thank you for being a part. Lee or Lead. I don't know what your full name is there. I see Arrow in there too. I don't know if you're like Arrow's separate and you're really into cycling, and then you really might do. But you just saw an Ansel exhibition at the Harry Reznor Center in Austin, Texas. Right on. It's really cool. Oh, wait. Are you? Oh, I'll get back to that. But thank you for being a member. Thanks for the content generosity, Justin. What's your best advice for your early career, Justin? Oh, man. Invest in AI. That would be my advice. Early on in my career, 20 years ago, invest in AI. And I would say nothing's really changed, man, except like just keep the hustle, keep the hard work, stay diverse. I think I learned on my own a lot of things. So what I would say early on is I could have learned things a lot faster if YouTube existed, and it didn't back then. So all the things I wanted to learn, I had to learn on my own. Now you have to sort through a lot of stuff, but you can learn things quite quickly and in quite a niche way. So whatever you want to learn, it's available on YouTube. You can learn fast. So I would say for anyone early on in their career, go out and shoot, find a project, find your style through that project, learn, shoot. That's what I would say. Tips for noontime shooting, please. Joel, oh man, noontime, I'm snoozing. Usually I'm right there on the couch taking a nap during noon. All my assignments, I'm up at 4:30, I'm out the door. I do a lot of travel stuff, right? And Asia's quite active in the morning. People are quite active early on in the morning. There's a lot going on. So I will typically shoot from like up at 4:30, pack my bags, slam a coffee if I can in my hotel room, get out, shoot, back in my room by 9 o'clock, take a nap, edit, maybe do some research, figure out what I'm going to shoot next, and go back out at like 2 and shoot until dark. So, but if I have to shoot at noon, which I do sometimes, is I find alleyways or I go by the window. I shoot indoors, but shoot by the window as much as I can. Or if I have a shot list on assignment, anything that's going to be fully indoors for my shot list, I time that to shoot during bad light. So between the hours of like 9 a.m. and like 3 p.m. So shoot noon, look for fun shadows and contrasty shadows and expose manually so you can get that heavy contrast, and go down alleyways and look for refracting light and play around. So, oh, I got a new member, Robbie. Thank you, man. That's cool. Good to have members here. Really, really appreciate it. It does really help support the channel. It's something I want to dive into more too. You also get early access. But Robbie, if you you'll see on your little welcome thing, you just send a request to enter our group on Facebook. I'll add you, and you can become a member there. You're already a member, but you can you'll get access to that little group, and I'll add you. I just have to approve you because I do get people that try to sneak in. Let's see. I have an M10-P and M6, been a Leica user 24 years. Damn, Captain Harlock. I'm a full-time professional photographer. My Leicas are my main cameras. You know what? You and I are very rare in that. A lot of people say professional photographers don't use Leica. A few of us do and make it work, and I think it's great. I haven't used it as long as you have. I mean, I started 20-something years ago with an M6, but not really professionally. I was using it more as my, I was shooting in Venezuela with it, personal project stuff. I mean, I guess it was professional. I was hired by an NGO to shoot there, but that was film, and then I made a long journey back like 20 years later. So let's see. Rhode Island, got to snag an awful when I'm out there. Man, so how do you know what an awful is? That's like the coolest comment. That made this whole thing worth it. Is that I have an awful cup that my friend brought back from the US to give to me, and it's in my cabinet. In my cabinet too. That's what we call a cabinet shake. So yeah, awful man. Go to Newport Creamery, grab an awful guy, hop in your car, no problem. Love it. Or coffee milk. But I like that you said that. Let's see. Renee asked, do you believe your best work is ahead of you? Yeah, I like to think so. I think I know I'm better than I used to be. It's just a matter of applying it. So yeah, I do think my best work is ahead of me. I think it's tough to beat the Rhino story for me because it's just so visually powerful, but I think I'll go back. I think I want to explore video documentary work. I think I want to build on this project. And I think for a long time, I've been held in as a photographer shooting for someone else. I have all these ideas that I never get to really apply. So I'm trying to do better at dedicating and allowing myself to apply these things and not be a victim of the hustle of the, earning. So now I'm lucky right now. I've got a couple kind of good commercial clients that I don't have to do these really long shoots, and I can make enough money from those shoots to have a little more time in between. And then once my house is all finished, all the renovations are done, I can spend a little more time doing that kind of work. So 2025, my goodness, time's flying. I want to get back to my personal project work, which I think will get better because I think having more time and being able to apply what I've learned these last 20 years a little bit more and to experiment, I think my best work is ahead of me. I hope so, Renee. See you on Facebook, Rami. Can you give an overview of how you manage to expose using M10-D? I'd like to think that I have some cool way of doing this. I'm so used to having the view checking. Do you rely heavily on the metering and the viewfinder? Yeah, I do. I use the viewfinder metering. I find it fine. And sometimes I bracket my exposures. That's it, really. I might say, like, I can see why this would read dark, so let me overexpose. Let me just get a couple more exposures there. But yeah, man, I mean, this sits here. I trust the meter. I trust my understanding of exposures, and I kind of go from there. And then maybe at lunchtime, I'll be like, oh, shit, did I get it right? And I'll pull up the app and check the photos out. Or maybe in real time, I'll do that sometimes if it's something really critical. And because I've done a lot of projects with just this camera, and it's scary. The nice thing, though, is with technology, even if you kind of underexpose a few stops, and plus I tend to underexpose a little bit anyways, just don't overexpose. So I lean on the side of underexposing, I bracket exposures, and I trust my background in shooting film in the beginning of my career to understand exposures. And I've just always shot in manual. Oh, wow, you got an Apo 90, and if you haven't had a chance, that thing blows my mind. Did you get what is it, you got an Apo 90mm recently? Is that hey, Chewy, that's my dog Chew, my other dog Bump, back there sleeping. They're mad because they're stuck in this room while construction workers are out there that they want to demolish. What 90 did you get? Is it the 90 SL lens, the 90M? Let me know. I'd be curious. Have you done any aerial photography from an aircraft or helicopter? Yes, I have. From a helicopter quite a bit for video work. We did some early on before drones, like clients that had a bit of a budget. We'd shoot from a helicopter. Not a ton, and it wasn't anything fancy or a huge rig or anything, but we filmed in Osaka from a helicopter. We had like just an hour, and I think it was like that's the exact budget. We barely had it. We could only fly to certain areas, and it was like it could have rained. It didn't rain. We needed some city shots, so I shot there. I shot in Vanuatu from a Fiji, not Vanuatu. I think I shot in Fiji from a helicopter. Was it Vanuatu? I think it was Fiji. And I've shot in Hayman Island for mostly hotel work. I have the budget for this kind of stuff. I've shot from a helicopter, so 3 or 4 times. Enjoyed it. I wouldn't say I have any tips other than know where you're flying, have long lenses, and be prepared. And don't fall out. I have an M240. I really enjoy it, but it's a lot of trial and error and checking the back screen. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I wish I had more metering tips, but I seem to not have an issue with knowing my exposures and knowing when to sort of underexpose and overexpose and not over, but I just know my exposures quite well and I have no issues with it. I like this person. I loved your videos so far. So far, like you're assuming that maybe my other ones might not be good, or I'm teasing you. Your portfolio is also quite awesome. This is great. Any questions, or you just want to say nice things about me? Great mind, shoot. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I would love to be able to pronounce your name right, but I'm not even going to try to butcher it because I'll offend you. But I appreciate that. I mean, I make these videos to help because I want people to learn. I want people to get better, and I hope that is helping people. If you have ideas for videos and things you want me to talk about, say it. I'm very active in the comment section. I start my day looking in there. I try to answer the questions best I can. I give members priority to answer their questions, but I try to answer everyone. And if you have a question, you have ideas, let me know. I have people like demand certain videos, but I mean, ask me. I like to be asked and more open to doing something if someone asks and doesn't demand. So ask me. The 90M, yeah, it makes you question your life choices when you're trying to focus. But the 90M doesn't interest me because I have the 100 macro, and that it's just too similar to that. But I used to have a 90 for sure. No, I borrowed a 90. I had a 75 for a short period of time. 75, I do miss that focal length sometimes. I use an 85 on commercial shoots, an 85-1.4, and wow, does it bail me out of a lot of situations when I'm just stuck in shooting a bad light, a bad room. I need to make something out of it. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your questions. Chris, sort of. No problem. Please follow up. That's what I'm here for. Man, I'm bored, you guys. That's why I'm stuck in here. Full manual ISO. Yes, I do. I never use auto ISO. I mean, that's what this camera is. I just set it. Before I go out and shoot, I kind of set everything. So my approach is like a day like today, it's overcast. So I might say, okay, I might be shooting in the shadows a bit. It's a little bit dark, so maybe I'll just shoot. I've got a wide open lens and I tend to shoot wide open. So I might just say, let me just go out with a base ISO 400, or if it's even darker, base ISO 800. If I go out at night, I'll start at 1600 and I'll just adjust based on that, So I just start with the ISO and I go from I don't trust auto ISO. I know modern cameras do amazing things, but I like dialing in the settings myself. It's been part of my process since I started, and it's just something that I like to do. So I do all my exposures myself, and it starts with ISO. Have you ever tried the RX1R2? I have not. It's a smaller compact camera, I believe, maybe similar competing with the Deluxe 8. Probably feature-wise and quality, probably better than the Deluxe 8, but I like the Leica feel and I like the Leica menu, and I'm just used to it. I just hate so many menus in that camera. I pack it with me. I take it on assignments like a scouting camera, cycling camera, everything camera. But I think if you don't care about the menu system, it's probably a great alternative. And probably maybe cheaper. I don't know. Chris, I love the 75 paired with the 28. That's a good match, sure. I used to use the 75 and the 35 for a long time. Also good match. 28 slightly wide for what I like. But yeah, that 75. I had a 75, what was it, the f2M lens, and I really enjoyed that. All right, guys, last question if you have one. If not, I'm going to go have my breakfast. I'm doing intermittent fasting, but not today. Too much going on. I'm too tired. My coffee's wearing off. I was hot coming into this, but I need another coffee. Okay, last question here. How does one find the balance between appreciating learning new things and seeing improvement, new pictures, while not discounting every old image? Yeah, I mean, I think don't be hard on yourself for old pictures, man. I like to dig up my old pictures and know where I used to be and where I want to go. I think just be okay with the process being long. Be okay with the process being hard work is going to pay off. That's what I do. I'm not a talented photographer by any means. I just throw what I do, everything in my career, everything I want to get good at, I just throw time at it, time and effort, and I eventually get better at it. And I just compare myself to myself, and that's it. I find I don't get anything out of comparing myself to others. I need to know in commercial work where I stand, sure, but I just focus on myself, what I can control, what I can do. And I'm fine that all my old photos suck. And I still take shitty photos sometimes. And I'm a professional. I get paid a lot of money sometimes to do it. So I take bad photos. Don't be hard on yourself for taking bad photos. Just try to learn from it. Try to take less. Try to get your hit rate up just by shooting more and being thoughtful. just blindly shooting more is not going to help you, but have purpose. I do that in my one-on-one classes. I help people find a project. You shoot every week, so there's accountability to it. You work on a project, help you find the project. It's a simple. It doesn't have to be this mega project. Hopefully it leads to your mega project, but you shoot every week. We look at your images. I talk through what you can improve on, shoot the same thing or something similar, and so we can improve on comparing apples to apples in your learning. So hope that was helpful. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate this. I didn't expect so many people to come on here with so many great questions. So thank you for spending time with me. I enjoyed this, and I'll do it more often because this was quite nice. I tried this a while back, and no one asked questions. So I was like, oh shit, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I'm here. I'll be away for a couple weeks. Maybe I'll do one more of these before I go, but next week in China, then the US, and I'll try to do some content while I'm there. But ideas for episodes, ask me in the comment section or present your ideas. Anyone interested in my online classes, one-on-one classes, I have that at askmont.com. Check that out. Don't feel obligated. Got a workshop coming up in December, a couple slots left. And that's it. I also do portfolio reviews as well. You can see all that at askmont.com. Thank you, Sue. We miss you, Sue. I'd like to get you back out here. Sue was one of our members for our workshop and my private one-on-one classes. She's just an awesome all-around person. All right. Bye, guys. Go out there and shoot. Stop listening to me and go shoot. That's my advice for today. Bye.